Formula E is back in London. It's been a 4-year absence, but now the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship is at London's XL for round 12 of 15 as we approach the business end of the season. There's a wonderful look from the central business district over the Millennium Dome, now the O2 Arena, all the way down to London City Airport. And underneath the flight path of that airport is the big building on the left-hand side, the Exhibition Centre XL, and that is where we find the world's first indoor-outdoor FIA championship race. This is how the grid lines up. Max Günther's at the back after crashing out of qualifying. Robin Freins struggled, so is 22nd. Championship leader Sam Bird is only 18th on the grid. He's got a long afternoon ahead of him, but the good news for him is the man second in the championship, Antonio Felix da Costa, is only 17th. Eduardo Mortara and Tom Blomqvist complete the top 15. Stoffel van Dorn crashed out of practice, so could only qualify 14th, with René Rast in the Audi in 13th position. Mitch Evans in the Jaguar starts 11th, just outside the top 10 as he looks for points in Jaguar's home race. And the grid is being cleared and we move into the top 10 positions. In 10th spot, after a very impressive qualifying, is Joel Erickson. This is his best ever performance in a Formula E qualifying session. He lines up behind Nick de Vries, the man who's led the championship twice this season. He has got his work cut out of him if he wants to win this afternoon. He's up behind Alexander Sims in the Mahindra, one of 7 British drivers in the field. Sims, born in London, this his home race. How he and Mahindra would love to get a strong result. Lucas Degrassi's in 7th place, the champion in the 3rd season of Formula E. He is going to be a threat for the win. That Audi is always very strong in race trim, as is Degrassi. Norman Nato, the Frenchman, driving for Venturi, turned 29 a couple of weeks ago, and he is going to be after a solid result. As is Andre Lotterer, who lines up 5th on the grid. He's finished 2nd 6 times in a Formula E race, but never won one. Could this afternoon be the time? Then it's Sergio Sete Câmara, the Brazilian, in his rookie season, doing a very impressive job to qualify 4th on the grid. He hasn't scored points since the 2nd race of the season in Saudi Arabia. Sebastian Buemi, the very experienced racer, is the Season 2 champion. He's having a bad year this year, but 3rd on the grid is a very strong attempt to rectify that. And then it's 2 British drivers on the front row. Jake Dennis from Nuneaton in the BMW I Andretti car, and Alex Lynn in the Mahindra. The man from Essex lines up on pole position in East London. 45 minutes plus 1 lap of racing about to get underway. And indoors in the London XL Centre, the race will begin. Then they'll go outdoors and around the streets that surround this circuit. My name is Jack Nichols. Alongside me in commentary here in the XL is Dario Franchitti, the 3-time Indy 500 champion. Dario, we're in for a fascinating race, and the drivers don't know what the track conditions are outside. It feels like you know, when you come out of the cinema, having been watching a movie, and suddenly you're like, oh, it's still bright outside. Yeah, exactly right, except you're driving home on the absolute limit. Now, the start is going to be very interesting. This is the highest grip surface we've ever seen in Formula E, and it's a lot of the race today. It's just going to be about that race to the first corner, especially in the mid-pack. So the race about to get underway. It's 45 minutes plus 1 lap of racing. Plenty to talk about as the race unfolds, but for now the focus is on those 5 red lights and the charge down towards the first corner. On the left, on pole position, it's Alex Lynn. Alongside him is his compatriot in the 27 blue and white BMW, Jake Dennis. Here come the lights. All 5 lights are on. And we go green in London. It's a pretty decent start actually from Alex Lynn on pole position. He immediately chops over to cover the inside. Dennis holds into 2nd place. Sete Câmara is getting passed by Andre Lotterer, the black and white Porsche going around the outside of Sete Câmara, and that's a really good move from the German. Norman Nato is under big pressure from Lucas Degrassi. Now they burst out into the daylight, and Alexander Sims is getting a bit hung out to dry there, and people are shuffling past him as they drop down the hill, and there's a crash there. Sims has got involved, and Mitch Evans has damage to the front of his car. Sims looks like he's out of the race as they come down to the chicane for the first time, but it's Alex Lynn who holds the lead. Jake Dennis is in 2nd place. They've burst clear of Sebastian Buemi, who's in 3rd in the Nissan, as they come down into the 2 hairpin right-handers at turn 10 and 11 for the first time. One of the Mahindras looks to be out of the running. The other is leading the race, Dario.
Absolutely. Alexander Sims got to the outside and he, as you say, Jack, was just shuffled into the wall, but it looks like the damage is terminal. And there's a yellow flag at turn 6 as well. That might necessitate a full course yellow or a safety car, unless they can get that car off the track, because it's a very tight part of the track. As you see, Sebastian Buemi in 3rd place in the black and red Nissan, locking up into turn 16.
And then the 4th place car of Andre Lotterer locked up also. Lucas Degrassi is having to fend off Nick de Vries for 7th position. There's an aggressive move from Nick Cassidy. He makes his way past Tom Blomqvist for 17th place. But look at this, as they come back inside again into the arena, and it is the 2 British drivers battling for the lead.
Control, full course yellow in 5,
and there's a full course yellow.
4, 3, 2, 1. Full course yellow, full course yellow.
Full course yellow, everybody has to slow down to safety
6.
car, a safe speed. And that's why Alexander Sims there by the side of the circuit. Scott Elkins there, the race director, calling that full course yellow. They have to slow down to 50 kilometers per hour. Hopefully they'll be able to just wheel Alexander Sims' car back off the circuit once everybody's gone through, and it shouldn't take too long. But Blomqvist has pitted as well, so he obviously had an issue, but Sims was basically hung out to dry in the... Oh, and there's a bit of damage for René Rast, but there, Sims was on the right-hand side. I think he's gone into the wall. Yeah,
he got to the outside, Jack, the right-hand side of our screen. It just kept coming round, and then somebody eventually pushed him into the wall. Kind of got off position and out of track position in turn 4, and that immediately caused him a problem. And one of the Jaguars in the pits, Sam Bird,
the championship leader, in the pits. And they're asking for the rear jack, so has he picked up a puncture? They're wheeling him into the garage. Well, we'll get an update on that as soon as possible. So Sims here in the red and white Mahindra, he's on the right, and he's just getting shuffled out wide.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I think it was on the Mercedes just sort of pushed him that final bit. You'll see just now at the top of the screen.
Oh no, Evans sort of went into the back of him.
I think Evans was getting pushed from behind though, Jack, and on the back axle, almost looks like he's damaged the gearbox, the transmission. The drive shafts are very sensitive in these cars. It's an interesting camera angle.
Attention all teams, this is race control. Full course yellow ending in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Green flag, green flag.
Right, racing getting back underway. Alex Lynn leading the way. Jake Dennis is in 2nd position. Sebastian Buemi is 3rd. 4th is Andre Lotterer. It's the red and white Mahindra of Alex Lynn out in front. Then the BMW I Andretti of Jake Dennis as they come up the east ramp, past the Royal Docks on the right-hand side, and then through the tunnel, well, back inside, I should say, into the XL once more. And Dennis is sitting right behind Alex Lynn. These two were running nose to tail for all of the race in Valencia a few months ago. It was Dennis who came out on top on that occasion as they come down into the left-hander of turn 1. 41 minutes plus 1 lap to go. Jean-Eric Vergne and Max Günther, you just saw diving into the pit lane to serve their drive-through penalties, and one of them is a stop-go actually for Jean-Eric Vergne because they changed parts on their car, so their race is pretty much over. As we come down to the chicane, there is Günther serving his 10-second stop-and-go penalty. The same is true of Jean-Eric Vergne. Max Günther and Jean-Eric Vergne serving their drive-through penalties, but we have 40 minutes plus 1 lap to go in the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship race here at London's XL. And this is 5 years since Formula E has been in London, and it's fantastic to have it back here. But championship leader Sam Bird is in the pits. He's got damage, and it looks as though his race is over, which is absolutely devastating. He's got another one to do tomorrow, but for him, coming in as the championship leader, it's gutting.
I know it's odd to say, but he's now hoping he falls out of the top 6 in the championship so he can get into Group 2 for qualifying tomorrow. It's so close. And this championship, this world championship, is going to come down to the very last race in Berlin. And we see a move up into turn 21 at the top of the ramp.
Yeah, I think it was... try and work out who that was, but we've already seen a few drivers activate attack mode. You can see on the left-hand side, attack mode is, and into the pits comes Evans, I think. I think the other Jaguars into the pits are going to be out of the race. Meanwhile, here's Da Costa going for it on Eduardo Mortara down into the first corner, and Da Costa gets through. So he's up into 13th position. He had just lost that place to Mortara when he activated attack mode. He went offline, and now he has extra power for the next 8 minutes, or 7 minutes and 20 seconds, as you can see on the tower on the left-hand side. Twice for 8 minutes, the drivers will get access to the extra power. They have to use it, and it's going to be a fascinating strategical element to this E-Prix.
No, absolutely right, Jack. And when you say a bit of power, it's 17.5% more power. It's massive. So if you're Antonio Felix da Costa at this point, you've got to quickly close the gap to the car in front and get past him. You've got to make hay while the sun shines, because that is going to be one of the big chances to overtake during this race. Unfortunately for the teams, it also overheats the rear tyres a little bit.
It's like Lynn's backing everyone up in the hairpins. He's so slow there.
Jake Dennis saying it feels like Lynn's backing everyone up in the hairpins. He's so slow. Alex Lynn is leading the way in the number 94 car. The red and white and blue Mahindra just ahead of the blue and white BMW I Andretti as they come up over the crest of the east ramp and back indoors again.
And if you're Lynn, you don't want to pull out too far, because if there's then a safety car and the field closes back up, you've used energy, you've used your tyres to make a gap. But you want to keep, I would say, keep the gap about a second. Keep it so that Jake Dennis can't lunge you and surprise you, really. Then, as you get closer to taking attack mode, you want to stretch the lead to about 2 seconds so you can take attack mode and still stay in the lead. As we see da Costa making a move on Pascal Wehrlein in the Porsche, so da Costa's doing exactly what we talked about, Jack. He's getting ahead, he's moving on, and the next car for him to pass is Stoffel van Dorn ahead of him in the Mercedes.
I spoke to him on the grid, and he said, I'm not making any friends this afternoon. There's no doubt about that. I said you don't have any friends to start with, but that was a bit unfair of me, really. But
the smiling assassin.
Yeah, exactly. There you can see the usable energy remaining on the left-hand side. They're all at about 86, 87%. Degrassi with a little more. Now he's in attack mode. Here's da Costa's radio.
Then Evans out of the race.
And that is what you want to hear if you're Antonio Felix da Costa. Some of your championship rivals are out of the race. Sam Bird and Mitch Evans, the two Jaguar drivers, and British driver Tom Blomqvist, all out in these opening stages. And da Costa is not too far away from the points, being in 12th position. Points go from 1st down to 10th. There goes Norman Nato into attack mode, and it has to be used twice during the race. Each attack mode lasts 8 minutes, and Nato activates his. Lynn and Dennis still sprinting away up at the front ahead of Sebastian Buemi. Through the right-hander and indoors again into the XL. Keep an eye on Lucas Degrassi on the left-hand side there. We're watching from his driver's eye.
And we can see his teammate behind, René Rast, in the Audi, that's got the damage. And you might think, oh, there's an aerodynamic problem. The cars here, they're designed specifically, the aero is not very important, as we see Robin Freins in the blue and red Envision Virgin car, making an overtaking manoeuvre. But yeah, aero is not that important, so you can go just as quick with bits of the bodywork hanging off, which is quite handy, because a lot of the drivers spend a good bit of time with bits of the bodywork hanging off. Very physical series.
Good mate, focus in front, good job.
Bertrand Famine telling Robin Freitz to focus in front after making that move on Oliver Turvey for 16th place. The clear visor that you need for inside here means you can really see, especially Jake Dennis's eyes. He seems to have a clearer visor than Alex Lynn at the moment, as they weave through the switchback and then down towards the hairpin right-hander of turn 16.
They go through a compression there, and then actually the wheels spin as they become a little bit airborne afterwards in turn 15, 16.
The two leaders activate attack mode then. Lynn and Dennis activate their first attack mode, 8 minutes long. Buemi in third closes up to the back of them, but he hasn't activated an attack mode yet. Buemi, Lotterer, Sete Camara and De Vries, the four drivers in that top group, as you can see, that haven't activated attack mode. The same is true of René Rast, and Cassidy's looking quite racy again, trying to get back past, or trying to pass, Pascal Wehrlein. Da Costa on the attack, trying to get around the outside of Sete Camara. Of Joel Erickson, my apologies, in the number 6 white and red Dragon car, and that is for 11th place. So Da Costa is really having an entertaining race this afternoon. He's carving his way through the field. We're on board with the young Swedish racer, looking back at the reigning champion, Antonio Felix da Costa, who is currently second in the Drivers' Championship standings. He's outside of the points at the moment, being outside of the top 10. Lock up from Buemi. Whoop, little bit of a late move from Sete Camara. De Vries tries to take advantage of that and can't quite put it all together, but Buemi is really the kind of stopper in the bottle at the moment, isn't he?
Yeah, we've seen this recently. You know, Sebastian Buemi, ex-champion, the Nissan car, been very quick, but it is struggling right now. And Lotterer, it looks like he's trying to set him up to make an overtaking manoeuvre.
Degrassi's close on the back of De Vries coming into turn 16. Oh, De Vries covers very late in the day. Sergio Sete Camara goes through attack mode. There's contact between Degrassi and De Vries, and Degrassi is tagged and is sliding out wide, and Sete Camara holds that position. He got out on the dirty stuff after the contact into turn 17. Lynn still leading, Dennis second, but De Vries now in 5th, and Degrassi is really a bit wound up by that, isn't he? We go on board with driver's eye. He goes side by side with Sete Camera again, down the start, finish straight. How close is Natto going to be behind this fight as well? Not quite close enough. Degrassi to the inside. Aggressive defensive work. Degrassi is through. There's lockups further back. Da Costa's getting involved in the squabble because he can see the queue basically from 5th place backwards, all coming towards him. Hectic stuff.
And an all-Brazilian battle between Degrassi and Sete Camera, and it was getting a bit personal there. I think Lucas Degrassi took exception to the rookie Sergio Sete Camera attacking him in turn 17. Here's the move.
Try to push this lap, Lucas. De Vries 2.9 seconds ahead.
Some great action here in the London E-Prix, round 12 of the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship. This is a replay of Lucas Degrassi wrestling almost with Sergio Sete Camera. This is Antonio Felix da Costa having a little bit of a nudge into the back of Joel Erickson, and there goes Sebastian Buemi through attack mode to remain in 3rd place. I'm surprised Lotterer followed him through there actually, but we'll see whether Lotterer in the Porsche can try and get back past. Meanwhile, 4 seconds up the road is Alex Lynn and Jake Dennis. Alex Lynn leading the way. The blue lights flashing just above the driver's head mean they're in attack mode. They're in the higher power setting for the moment. Lynn and Dennis are disappearing. They're in a race of their own at the moment. Buemi 3rd, Lotterer 4th, and then there's squabbles all the way throughout the rest of the pack. And here comes a move. Da Costa fancies it. Erickson covers him off.
Late defence by Joel Erickson in the red and white Dragon car. Da Costa will not be happy. You can see some damage to the left rear side pod of Joel Erickson's car. 2 cars under investigation. Sete Camera and Degrassi for causing a collision. I don't think there'll be too much issue with that. I think it's just a racing collision.
It looked like it, didn't it? As we see now, the drivers who activated attack mode earlier now running out of it. So Da Costa there in 12th place has now run out of attack mode. He can activate it again. He has to activate it again at some point in the next half an hour. But when is that going to be? That's the question. Degrassi is sprinting away. Oh, and Mitch Evans is back in the race, but he is, well, he's on the lead lap actually, Mitch Evans. So he's 50 seconds back from Alex Lynn, but he is on the lead lap, which is something at least.
He's praying for a safety car at this point. If he gets a safety car, he's praying. And we see some action again.
Oh, and that's Mortara, I think, getting involved in, no, it's Natto, sorry. It's Natto and Sete Camera coming together. They were fighting over 7th position, and Natto didn't quite get the move done, and now he's dropped down the order.
And Sete Camera just does not have the pace to hang on, and people just attacking him left and right. As Alex Lynn looking in his mirror, seeing the BMW Andretti car of Jake Dennis behind him. Jake Dennis looking in his mirror and seeing nothing.
Well, the action's intense. Let's dive down to the pit lane because Nikki's with the championship leader. Nikki.
I am indeed. Sam Bird, just quickly give us a...
Fairly sure. Everybody was going sort of 2, 3, 4 wide through turn 4, 5, and unfortunately I kind of got sandwiched between a rock and a hard place, and it's damaged the front left suspension. It's a shame because we've had great pace all weekend, and you know, it's kind of out of my control, everything that's happened to us today, so pick ourselves up and go again tomorrow.
Huge commiserations for you, but good luck for tomorrow. Thanks, Sam.
So great to hear from Sam Bird, the championship leader. Antonio Felix da Costa now makes the move on Sergio Sete Camera, so that is now 11th place for the Portuguese man from Cascais, with 30 minutes plus 1 lap to go. Round 12 of the Formula E World Championship. Alex Lynn leading, Jake Dennis second. They activated attack mode together, so they're going to run out of it at the same time together as well. And there's just 0.8 of a second between them. As it stands, Sam Bird would still lead the championship, but Jake Dennis would jump up into 5th place and just be 9 points off the lead as it stands. But a long way to go in this one. Half an hour plus 1 lap, Dario Franchitti.
Yeah, absolutely. Antonio Felix da Costa is making passes all over the place. 11th place right now. Next place, 10th, starts paying points, and he is flying in the black and gold DS Techeetah.
Certainly is. You can see him coming down here now. Eduardo Mortara going to the inside of Sergio Sete Camera. Nick Cassidy and Oliver Rowland about to go side by side too, and those two don't give up, and Rowland holds it out around the outside. That was classic Oliver Rowland. You don't get around him very easily, I tell you that. And Rowland has made it stick for 15th position. He's in attack mode still, so I think that was Cassidy's last real shot at getting past him, but now the other purple Envision Virgin Racing car of Robin Freins is right behind his teammate Nick Cassidy, but that's all the elbows out action for 15th position.
Absolutely fascinating. Oliver Rowland, his home races from Barnsley, yeah, and as you say, Jack, he doesn't give up easily. Great bit of racing though, nothing crazy, just good, hard racing. Fantastic.
Through the hairpin comes Sebastian Buemi, who's still holding on to this third place at the moment. He, Lotterer and De Vries have broken away a little, but they are 3.6 seconds back from the race leaders. They've broken clear of Lucas Degrassi and René Rast, the two Audis running in 6th and 7th place. And here are the trio coming out of the final corner now at turn 22 and out across the line. 28.5 minutes plus 1 lap to go in round 12 of the Formula E World Championship. Nato and Sete Camera under investigation for causing a collision. 28 minutes plus 1 lap to go. Oof, that was a crunch from Cassidy as he whacked the curb on the inside.
Yeah, it was a little bit misjudged. Normally you can get the left side of the car unloaded and jump over the curb, and that just didn't work out. The car just hit the curb and jumped off. That is not what you want at all.
So what's happening with these two leaders, Dario? Lynn and Dennis, are they just kind of cruising around and the fight will come later, or is Lynn just hanging on ahead of Dennis? How do you read it?
I think Lynn's managing his tyres. He's here his team radio.
Okay, we're doing a loop again this lap. Loop again this lap.
Okay, attack mode this lap then for Alex Lynn in the lead of the race. Does Dennis go with him? No. Interesting. So Jake Dennis doesn't follow Alex Lynn through this time around, and that's very, very interesting for Dennis. He'll try and extend and then have more power than Lynn at the end of the attack mode phase.
Now, if you're Alex Lynn, your job is now to hang on to the back of Jake Dennis and then get past him and start to make that gap again. That you've got to do that there. Therefore, when Dennis has got the extra power, yeah, he's not close enough. Oh, we've got a black-white flag for Lucas Degrassi at turn 17.
Yeah, that's a driving standards flag. So just a little bit of a warning for Degrassi. Don't be rude again. Didn't look too much in it, really, did it? But
I'm surprised at that one.
Yeah. 27 minutes plus 1 lap to go.
So we see the Mercedes actually having a good day. Nick De Vries at the moment, P5. They've had a very tough time recently.
I do feel quicker than Lynn.
Well, that's a nice thing to feel. Jake Dennis says...
Do not drop me behind Buemi. Do not drop me behind Buemi.
We will not drop you behind Buemi. We're monitoring the gap against...
Okay, so that's Dennis saying, don't drop me back from Buemi, but there's a long way between them. Through the hairpins. Jake Dennis is leading the London E-Prix round 12 of the Formula E World Championship because Alex Lynn, who was in the lead, activated his attack mode a lap ago and dropped back behind Dennis. And now Dennis is looking fairly comfortable in front. If anything, maybe extending the gap a little to Alex Lynn. So Dario Franchitti, if you're Lynn here, you're trying to stay the back of Dennis, but how aggressively do you do that? Can you afford to use up energy whilst doing it?
Well, only person that will know that is Alex Lynn and the team, what the energy figures are and how the rear tyres of that car are feeling. He's going to manage that a bit. But if it's me, I'm going to be pushing these next couple of laps just to not let Jake Dennis get within over a second away from me, because it takes about a second and a half to take the attack mode. So he's got to just hang on to the back of that BMW Andretti car if you can.
Stay with him. He's been instructed to push, so stay with him.
Easier said than done. Look, I mean, look how close the walls are. There's no margin for error for these drivers at all. Multiple surface changes, indoor and outdoor as well. And it's just a constant challenge just to keep the car on the island. Never mind, do all the stuff that the engineers are telling you to do.
So there's the gap back to the two Audis, Lucas Degrassi and René Rast. They are running in 6th and 7th places. Then it's Stoffel Van Dorn here in the silver Mercedes EQ ahead of Norman Nato. Then De Costa, who's quietened down a little, but he's got into 10th place and into the points. Oh, big slide there on the brakes from Sete Camera, I think it was. No, sorry, it was Joel Erickson in 11th place. Dennis is doing well, holding on in front. There goes Nick De Vries from 5th position through attack mode, as does Lucas Degrassi, who dropped out behind his teammate. But De Vries now has no attack modes remaining, as you can see. Dennis, Buemi, Lotterer, Rast, Mortara all have to go through the activation zone and get extra power for another 8 minutes.
and we've seen the Audis, we're on board with Lucas Degrassi right now, we've seen the Audis play very nicely together, sort of the team game, not holding each other up when one has attack mode and the other does not. So let's see if they play that game today again.
25 minutes, 24 minutes, plus 1 lap to go in this race. Another race coming up tomorrow afternoon as well, which again I think is going to be changeable conditions. Nick de Vries, Stoffel van Doorn, Antonio Felix da Costa, Jean-Eric Verne and Sam Bird are the 5 drivers that are awarded fan boost. So they get a power boost in the second half of this race thanks to voting online from fans, and those are the drivers that have it. Sam Bird won't be able to use it because the championship leader is out of the race. There's Lucas Degrassi running in 7th position at the moment. Not a great race this for Audi. They're doing absolutely fine, double points finish, but not quite as close to the front of the order as I would expect Degrassi to be.
Close the gap to Lotterer, urgent.
Close the gap to Lotterer, urgent is the message, and that's why.
Yep.
Because Buemi and Lotterer both go through attack mode activation and both come out still in front of Nick de Vries. Buemi still 3rd, Lotterer 4th. Did Lotterer get it, or did Lotterer miss it? Look, the blue, I don't think the blue on top of Andre Lotterer's car is flashing, and you can see he's not in blue on the timing tower on the left-hand side. So Lotterer went for it, but I think has missed the attack mode activation. Jake Dennis leading. Alex Lynn 2nd as the 2 come down towards the first corner. And there, Lotterer hasn't got attack mode. That means de Vries can attack the Porsche driver, and he's starting to slip back now, and now under pressure from the Audis of Rast and Degrassi, and he might even drop behind both of them if he activates it this time.
And there's 3 sensors that the driver's got to cross the attack mode activation zone here. And you see Lotterer, I think he's did he miss the last one though? I think he might have been out just a bit early. You've also got to arm attack mode before you go through that. And has he just missed one of the sensors? This is turn 10, bit of close-up action with Oliver Rowland. There you go.
So I believe that he forgot to arm it. That's what happened. Norman Nato has been given a 5-second time penalty for an incident at turn 17.
Okay.
That was the one where he sent the lunge, didn't it, and then dropped back down the order. So that's not ideal for Nato. And whoop, here comes Cassidy, and he's tapped Verline around a little bit. If anything, it helped him get round the corner, and that's holding up his teammate Robin Freins. Meanwhile, Rowland, has he just got past Mortara? No, he's just trying to defend from Mortara. Lotterer didn't activate attack mode that time around, and is still running in 5th position.
It's all happening.
I know. A processional race, some of the drivers were saying this was going to be, but anything but that. Well, maybe up at the front as Dennis and Lynn continue to fight for the win here in London.
Attack now. It's a big enough deficit, and I don't want to take the risk on full course yellow.
Yeah, copy.
The engineer's relaxed as Lotterer makes a pass on Rennie Rast.
Steaming into the first corner, just about got it stopped.
Rast's on attack mode.
Yeah. He and Degrassi, although Rast is about to run out of attack mode, but Lotterer will have to arm his pretty soon. Jake Dennis saying he wants to take attack mode this time because the gap back to Buemi is plenty big enough. It's 4 seconds. So is Dennis going for it from the lead of the race?
This is at turn 10. Yeah, we've got 6 more corners. Yep, turn 11 to do. And at this point, if I'm sure Alex Lynn's team are telling him that, and you've got to push like crazy to stay as close as you can to Jake Dennis in front if he wants to get back into the lead of this race.
Here we come up towards turn 16. Is Jake Dennis from the lead activating attack mode? No. Interesting. Doesn't go for it this time around. 21 minutes plus 1 lap to go. So Dennis saying he wanted to do it. The engineer saying, yeah, okay, but he hasn't done it. Maybe he's just waiting another lap for Alex Lynns to run out.
And Lotterer got attack mode that time and managed to stay ahead of the Audis.
20 minutes plus 1 lap to go. Degrassi now ahead of René Rast. Only Dennis has an attack mode remaining in the top 18. So he's in a very different strategy to those around him.
And we're just past halfway, Jack, again, so that these drivers are having to look after these rear tyres. And that's one of the things we can't understand here from the commentary booth. It's exactly how they're wearing, because the torque of the electric motor really tortures the tyre, especially on this high grip indoor surface.
20 minutes plus 1 lap to go. Lynn about to run out of energy now, or run out of attack mode, I should say. And is Dennis going for it this time? No, doesn't look like it. Oh, Lynn, big lockup. Coming into turn 10. So we'll see what Dennis does. Still waiting for Jake Dennis to activate his attack mode, but Alex Lynn has just made a big mistake that drops him back from the BMW driver, and he might activate it this time. No, he doesn't. So round 12 of the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship here on the streets of London, and that was a big lock-up, Dario Franchitti, from Alex Lynn.
Yeah, it starts to lock up quite early. Watch, it hits the bump and immediately starts to lock. He locks the rear a bit, but he manages to get it turned in, get off the brakes. You'll see it from on board. Watch the puff of smoke from the right front. Watch his hands. Yeah, he didn't lose too much there though. That was a good recovery from a small mistake. The first bump in the braking zone set it off.
It's Roger Griffiths, team principal of the BMW Andretti team.
He just nodded. Does that mean they're taking attack mode this lap?
It was a very affirmative nod, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
They come outside of the London XL, drop down the hill through turn 5. This is Alex Lynn running in second place. And that mistake on the last lap cost him 1.6 seconds. And here is Jake Dennis.
Just checking his mirrors. Jake Dennis looked over, checked the right mirror. Let's see what he says.
He's 2 seconds behind. We will use attack.
So this time through, looks like Jake Dennis will activate his attack mode. Buemi third, De Vries fourth. A gap back to the Porsche arriving next up of Andre Lotterer, who's still ahead of René Rast, somehow, despite fighting him for quite a few laps now. But here comes Dennis. If he activates his attack mode here, he may be able to hold the lead of the E-Prix. Comes through it, hooks it up, attack mode activated, and stays comfortably clear of Alex Lynn. And with 18 minutes plus 1 lap to go, Jake Dennis is looking in a very strong position for the BMW Andretti Motorsport team. Up the east ramp and back inside. 17 minutes plus 1 lap to go. And Dennis's lead as they come across the line this time, well, you can see it, but it's 1.6 seconds. He leads the way. Alex Lynn is second. Sebastian Buemi and Nick De Vries there in third and fourth are coming back towards Alex Lynn a little bit. And this is René Rast trying to overtake Andre Lotterer. Battle of 2 Germans and 2 German brands in Audi and Porsche. Then it is Van Dorn, Nato and Antonio Felix da Costa here. Second place man in the championship. At the moment set for 1 point, but he's close enough to the back of Nato and Van Dorn, he might be able to gain a couple of places. 17 minutes plus 1 lap to go. We're on board with Degrassi.
And Degrassi's teammates, the car in front, so he has to be super careful here. This is where you cannot, if it's somebody else, I think Lucas Degrassi would be more aggressive in attacking the car in front, but he's just having to play a little carefully.
Hairpin at 10. Hairpin at 11.
Just watch his hands using all the lock possible over a turn of lock as he comes through the quick flick of 12 and 13. You hear the car bottom out, just a second. Then it goes light, has a little wheel spin. Just a small bit of lifting and coasting.
There's some shunting on the left-hand side, isn't there? Because Robin Freins into the, Nick Cassidy into the back of Erickson. There is Da Costa in the black and gold DS Techeetah. So he's in 10th place at the moment. So he's got 8th place in his sights, potentially. And that is more points for the championship. If he finishes in 8th, he'll get 4 points, which would move him just 1 point back from Sam Bird at the top of the championship standings. That's if he can pass those 2 cars in front of him. 16 minutes plus 1 lap to go.
That's easier said than done, Jack. One of those is Stoffel Van Dorn, who's a race winner, and the Mercedes EQ car is not slow. There's championship leader at the moment, Sam Bird. You see the championship points below, out on the first lap. Good news is for him, he gets to do it all again tomorrow and can make amends.
And this win for Jake Dennis would move him up to 2nd in the standings, which would be a remarkable performance for Jake Dennis if he was able to hold on and take his 2nd win of the season. Only Sam Bird and Nick De Vries have taken 2 wins this season.
Van Dorn's having a good race when you consider the first lap of practice this morning.
Yeah.
He crashed in turn 10, so he didn't get any practice before qualifying, so having a nice recovery drive today.
Yeah, qualified 14th on the grid as well, so has really made some good progress.
Car balance looks good. Nato behind has a 5-second penalty. Just for info.
Oh, of course, and that means that Da Costa doesn't have to pass Nato on track, but he wants to if he wants to get ahead of Stoffel Van Dorn in front of him. And that was Marius Meyer-Dietrich on the radio saying car balance looks good, and the guy behind has a 5-second time penalty.
I always loved it when the engineer told me how the car was feeling.
Yeah. Why are they saying that the car balance looks good to the driver? Because, as you say, surely they don't know.
I don't know, but Alex Lynn's got Sebastian Buemi right behind him. Alex Lynn in second place, Sebastian Buemi third in the Nissan. It's all closed up.
It has. Jake Dennis has checked out, and now Lynn, Buemi and De Vries are these three drivers for second, third and fourth, and we're driver's eye with Sebastian Buemi. This camera inside Sebastian Buemi's helmet as he comes down towards turn 10. And look how much lock he's going to have to turn in here.
Yeah, just watch that. Watch his hand, one half lock, and then a full turn of lock. That's very unusual in a single-seater racing car. And again, maximum lock through 11. Costa got a black and white flag, a warning flag for causing a collision. I'd be surprised if there isn't many cars in the field today didn't get that flag at some point.
Rast has made up 7 places in this race. Look at that, he's up into 6th place. Oliver Rowland has made up 10 and is now just outside of the points-paying positions. Mortara's made up 4. So some big climbers today. René Rast, always one of the big climbers, but Jake Dennis, he's only made up 1 place, but he only needed to make up 1 place. Started second, leading the way with 13 minutes plus 1 lap to go, and he's in his own race now. He's absolutely dropped Alex Lynn.
Faster, I'm just looking after the rear tyre. 194.
Dennis saying I can go much faster, but I'm just looking after the rear tyre. "13 minutes plus 1 lap to go." That was a confident sounding Jake Dennis on the radio.
Yeah, if you're another driver in the field, you can hear that. You're thinking, oh no. But you can actually see it from the body language of the car before Jake Dennis disappeared down the road. You could see the way he was able to position the car, and I mean, that takes the confidence out of the drivers following, I would say. And at points like that, as we see the Mercedes going for the move on the inside at turn 10, Nick De Vries, maximum lock, makes it. Oh, just, that was every bit of lock that car had. Needed a London taxi to make the, to make the corner.
So De Vries up into 3rd place, but look how much time he lost making that overtake. You had to go so much slower through turn 10 that Alex Lynn has built quite a gap.
Mate, really good move, mate. Really good move. Let's keep going forward.
Albert Lau on the radio there to De Vries. Good move, let's move forward, but can they now close in that? The gap's gone up to 2.2 seconds. It was less than a second, but that's how much time you lose if you make an overtake at that corner.
Yeah, absolutely right, but the Mercedes EQ car got good race pace, so Alex Lynn's really got to get charging down the road and try and catch Jake Dennis and try and build the gap to Nick De Vries behind him.
12 minutes plus 1 lap to go. Buemi having a little look to De Vries. Rast is now right up behind Lotterer. Then you got the Degrassi, then you got Stoffel Van Dorn. Still in this fight over 8th, 9th and 10th. Van Dorn, Nato, Da Costa. Little lock up on the left front for Da Costa. He's pushing very, very hard to try all he can to get ahead. Now this is a replay of Joel Erickson and Robin Freins, and oh, what was that? That's a bit of a weird one, wasn't it? And they are entwined in one another.
There's a word for this that I can't use on air, but they're definitely getting a bit upset with each other.
Oh, so Cassidy went to the inside of Erickson, and then Freins sort of tried to follow him through, and then they had contact. "11 minutes plus 1 lap to go in round 12 of the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship. Jake Dennis has just disappeared out of your view because he's absolutely dominating this London E-Prix. Alex Lynn is in 2nd place for the Mahindra team. He's got clear of Nick De Vries, who's in 3rd place, but there is Jake Dennis, the young British driver in his 1st season of Formula E. He's already had 1 win this year, and this win would move him up to 2nd in the championship, and look at the advantage he has over the 2nd place car of Alex Lynn. There is Lynn in the red, white and blue Mahindra. Started on pole position, still running in 2nd, and then you've got the gap back to De Vries, Buemi, and then Antonio Felix da Costa's in the 13 car at the back of this queue, still in 10th place. And Robin Freins has been given a 5-second time penalty for causing a collision at turn 10.
Stewards are busy today.
They are, aren't they?
They get an overtime rise. Worth noting that Norman Nato, the white and black Venturi, that has a Mercedes-Benz powertrain in it too, a Mercedes EQ powertrain, I'm sorry, just like the car ahead of him. And the gap between Lynn and De Vries. De Vries slowly closing up.
René Rast also dropping back a little from Andre Lotterer in their fight.
See the marbles at the side of the track. That's the byproduct, basically, the tyre sliding across the surface. You don't want to hit that. It's like ice.
The tyres have worked really hard, actually. It's quite rare you see that in Formula E, but that the special resin that they've put down inside to make the inside of the circuit grippy is really working the tyres hard as we look towards the city over to the west. 9 minutes plus 1 lap to go. And as I say, Rasta dropped back. He's now caught right up to the back of Andre Lotterer.
And he'll be looking to make a pass at this point, leaving left and right, trying to get into the mirrors of Andre Lotterer. But Andre Lotterer's driven pretty much everything, and he's not going to get rattled easily. But and he's pretty aggressive as well. So it's going to be a pass made there. It's going to be, I would imagine, fairly aggressive.
Yeah. Do you think
Antonio Felix da Costa still in 10th? I'm surprised he hasn't made more progress in the black and gold to treated.
Do you think this sort of look at driving standards that we're seeing, or the black and white warning flags and 5-second time penalties here and there, as we look at a replay of De Vries going past Buemi down into turn 10, and that's what got him up into 3rd place? But it's been quite robust, the action here, and it's to try and put a sort of control on that or something?
Yeah, quite possibly. No, that's a good thing, as long as it doesn't go too far. We know there's going to be a bit of contact, and that's, we've definitely seen it. That was a nice move by Nick De Vries. Absolutely textbook stuff, because not an easy place to pass. There's nowhere easy to pass in this circuit, let's face it.
That's Ian James, the team principal of the Mercedes EQ squad. And that is Jake Dennis, who's leading the way all serenely for the BMW I Andretti Motorsport team.
That's the word I was going to use, completely serene at the moment. Days like today, he's wondering why everybody else is so slow.
It's all okay. What's the gap to Lynn? I need to bring this home.
5 seconds to Lynn. 5 seconds to Lynn.
Dennis saying, I need to bring this home. What's the gap to Lynn?
At that point, though, Jack, he can't get out of his rhythm. He's got into a nice rhythm with the circuit and street courses, especially ones like this. It's very important to maintain that rhythm. Not take any risk, but you can't sort of really slow down too much, knocks you out of the rhythm, and then you're in a lot of trouble.
7.5 minutes plus 1 lap to go. The Audi's still chasing down Lotterer. Seven minutes plus 1 lap to go. And Jake Dennis leading, Alex Lynn second, De Vries in third. I think Degrassi and Rast swapped places earlier on, I think to allow Rast to try and attack Andre Lotterer. It hasn't quite worked out yet. There's the race leader, Jake Dennis. Down towards 16. And he's complaining of a bit of vibration on his right rear.
Ooh.
Roger Griffiths, eyes wide.
You don't want to hear that. Yeah, because vibration generally, either wheel wake's falling off or you're just using the tyre too hard. But we've never really heard of that before with a Michelin tyre, and especially somewhere like Pueblo with that big oval glass corner, the tyres have been definitely tested and found to be more than up to the job. Well,
a reasonable last lap from Jake Dennis. Hasn't cost him too much pace. If so, he still managed to lap a 1/10 of a second only slower than Alex Lynn. De Vries took 3/10 of a second out of Lynn on that last lap, and there's only 1.1 seconds between them now. So De Vries trying to haul back Alex Lynn after making that move on Buemi earlier on.
And if you're Alex Lynn, you want to pick the parts you're quicker the circuit. The exit places like turn 9 here, you really want to set up to get off 9 quickly so that Nick De Vries can't get close enough to make a lunge on the brakes, as we saw he did earlier to Sebastian Buemi. Going into turn 16, that's another place you need to protect. Let's hear from Alex Lynn.
I'm trying my hardest, man.
Understood.
Cyril Blyce on the radio with Alex Lynn saying understood, but Lynn's trying his hardest, but De Vries is coming at him, and they're all kind of concertinaing back up to the back of Alex Lynn as they come through the chicane down towards turn 16 again. They've all used their attack modes. Five minutes plus 1 lap to go in the London E-Prix, round 12 of the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship season, and this is the battle for second place. Jake Dennis has disappeared up the road, took the lead, and there you can just see the flashing rear light of Dennis in the distance. This, though, is Alex Lynn under pressure from Nick De Vries.
Remember, you've got fan boost, currently P3.
Nick De Vries being told you can go for it, and he's got fan boost, so he can use a power boost if he wants to. Costa's using that now to try and get Nato, I think, coming down into turn 1. There's Toto Wolff, and there is Da Costa. Da Costa gets ahead of Nato, then up into 9th place. Nato had a penalty anyway, But now Da Costa can set about attacking Stoffel van Dorn in front. Toto Wolff, the boss of Mercedes Motorsport, was the chap we just saw watching as he's here this weekend in London. Jake Dennis leading, but the Lynn de Vries Buemi battle is the one that's starting to concertina up.
And we talk about fan boost, Jack, that's plus 20% extra power. That is definitely worth having, and it definitely makes trying to pass a lot better. And the Audis have switched over. Lucas Degrassi ahead of René Rast. So let's see if Lucas Degrassi can shut down the gap to Andre Lotterer.
There was the move from Antonio Felix da Costa, getting ahead of Norman Nato after using his fan boost. Nicely done. Right, here's Jake Dennis leading the way. 4 minutes plus 1 lap to go. But this is the battle about to emerge back into the XL now. Alex Lynn ahead of Nick de Vries in the fight for second position. And they've actually, Buemi hasn't really come with them. So it is just this second and third place battle. Let's ride on board with Nick de Vries, the young Dutch racer, coming into the first corner.
Now let's watch what he does. If you watch Alex Lynn's taking quite late apexes everywhere compared to Nick de Vries. Alex Lynn's really trying to set up for the exits of the corner, trying to make sure he gets the power down. He might be struggling with the rear of that car. That's been a common theme with the Mahindra this season with him, and just struggling as the race goes on. Look at the sideways moment through turn 8. Oh, and de Vries is very close through 9. Look at the rear of the car sliding.
And he's in fan boost.
Yeah, and he's setting up for a pass.
De Vries activates his fan boost, sends it to the inside of Alex Lynn into turn 10. And Nick de Vries is into second place.
Really nothing, he would say, Alex Lynn could have done there, but he defended. He wouldn't be able to get around the corner. Would have brought Sebastian Buemi to him. And I think it was inevitable with the pace difference that Nick de Vries was going past.
Nick de Vries then up into second place, but there's only less than 3 minutes to go. He's not going to be able to charge down and catch Jake Dennis, you wouldn't have thought. This has been a really good race from Nick de Vries. Started 9th on the grid and is now going to finish second. And this was the view of it again. Can you defend into that corner?
You can, but then you risk losing so much time. We saw earlier that Sebastian Buemi comes in instead of third, you're now fourth. It's clear that I think Alex Lynn's having some problems with the rear of the car just from the onboard we saw from Nick de Vries. So I think he's it's one of those days, if you can finish third, you finish third. You know what I mean? You try and maximise, and that's what Alex Lynn's trying to do at this point. I think the performance advantage was just too much there. And we see Rast now all over his teammate again. This Audi battle will not finish, and neither of them is able to catch up with Andre Lotterer in the Porsche in P5.
As it stands, Jake Dennis would move up to second in the championship standings, just 3 points adrift. Oh, sorry, 2 points adrift. Come on, that's easy maths. Of Sam Bird in the lead. Nick de Vries would jump up to fourth in the championship standings, just 4 points away from Sam Bird, and they would all be in the first group of qualifying tomorrow morning, which is the most difficult part of this Formula E World Championship. So great move from de Vries. It will move him up into championship contention. There's just 3 races to go this season after today.
And de Vries is not getting away from Lynn, which is slowing him down, allowing Buemi to catch that gap as well. And you watch the energy number increase as de Vries hits the braking zone for turn 16, probably got back up to 7%. No, didn't. So Lynn's got a little bit of energy in hand. Can he use that to close the gap back on Nick de Vries?
Well, we'll see what he can do, Alex Lynn. As you say, he's got that little bit of energy remaining, more than Nick de Vries. Naturally, you have to get to the end of the race without running out of energy. And we have 50 seconds plus 1 lap to go. So I think this is now the penultimate lap of the race. And as the team's championship are concerned, this result for Da Costa in 9th place would mean DS Techeetah and Envision Virgin go joint top at the team's championship, and suddenly Mercedes EQ are going to come up and join that fight. They're 5th at the moment in the standings, but now they'd only be 5 or 6 points away from the top group. So it really can change around so quickly in the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship.
That's what's going to happen. It's going to go down to that last race in Berlin, isn't it, Jack? And I think I said the other day in New York, I said it's going to come down to less than 3 points. Did I make some rash prediction like that?
You sticking by it?
I hope I'm right. Yeah. I'll look even more foolish if I'm not.
Right, here comes Jake Dennis. The clock ticks down to 0. So he'll come across the line and start the final lap in what has been a really strong drive and very much the class of the field. I've been amazed at how quickly he's pulled away and to such a degree. 5 seconds clear of Nick de Vries in second place. Okay, qualified in second position. De Vries qualified in 9th, but it's been totally under control from Jake Dennis. It was similar in Valencia back in April. He won the race from the front, lights to flag, that everyone said you don't want to lead the race to win.
That's what the whole time, didn't he? You don't want to lead the race, and he did exactly that, did Jack. And he's phenomenal performance so far. He's still got about 20 corners to go. Let's not give him the trophy quite yet, because it's easy. As you Ras going back past his teammate, Lucas Degrassi. He's like, sorry, Lucas, you weren't able to pass the Porsche ahead. So I'll have that position back. Thank you very much.
A little bit of formation flying between the two Audis. Degrassi back down into 7th position. Norman Natto's in a bit of energy trouble here in 10th place. It could promote, and surely will promote, Oliver Rowland up into the top 10. It's not worked out at all for Venturi, but it has worked out very well for this man, Jake Dennis. He's about to move to the 2nd in the standings. He's about to win his home E-Prix in his rookie season, and he's about to make it a British 1-2 at the top of the championship. Sam Bird will lead the standings after this race, but Jake Dennis will launch himself up into 2nd place. 6 drivers will be separated by 9 points. The applause go for Jake Dennis. Won't be able to celebrate too much tonight because we do it all again tomorrow.
Just what I was thinking. Have to save it till tomorrow night.
Here he comes up the east ramp. The man from Nuneaton is about to win his home E-Prix. Through the left-hander, the BMW I Andretti car comes out across the line, lights up the rear tyres, and in dominant fashion, Jake Dennis wins in London.
That is how you win a Formula Race, boys. Come on! Oh my God, yes!
Well,
Absolute delight for Jake Dennis. He takes the victory. De Vries 2nd, Lynn 3rd, Buemi 4th, Lotterer 5th, Ras, Degrassi, Van Dorn, De Costa and Rowland, the rest of the top 10.
Let's talk to Jake Dennis, shall we?
Yeah.
See if it works
so
indoors.
much. Thank you.
Jake, it's Dario on TV. Congratulations. That was, I think Jack described it as a serene performance.
Whatever that means, but yeah, it was an incredible performance. Oh, I'm so happy. Obviously, I just got to get around these hairpins. Yeah, they're a bit tight, they are. But yeah, amazing job by everyone in the whole team. What a strategy. Incredible performance from the car as well.
Yeah, what a drive, though. Phenomenal. Well done, Jake. Well done. You've got to do it all again tomorrow, so no partying tonight, though.
Definitely not.
Wow, Jake Dennis, the winner of the race here in London. Here's a look at the results after round 12. Jake Dennis takes the win, finishing 5.3 seconds clear of Nick De Vries. Alex Lynn finishing in 3rd place for Mahindra. 2 British drivers on the podium. Sebastian Buemi 4th after a solid drive for the Nissan Edams team. Andre Lotterer 5th. The 2 Audis in 6th and 7th. Van Dorn in 8th. Antonio Felix da Costa got into 9th place. And Norman Natto did indeed run into trouble and didn't finish the race. Down in 21st position there, Norman Natto. So that means Oliver Rowland gets a point. No finish for Sam Bird. No points for Jaguar Racing. But they're still going to be in Group 1 and have to face that challenge again tomorrow. Well, I think the drivers are going to enjoy it more than we are, aren't they? Absolutely superb to see everybody ready.
Firstly, please welcome onto the stage Will Davidson, performance engineer.
And it's Will Davidson, the performance engineer of the BMW I Andretti Motorsport team. A home race pretty much for the BMW I Andretti team. They're a bit greedy because they got 3. And of course they won in New York just 2 races ago in the Andretti Element home race. And then go on up on the podium. There you go. Well, BMW, of course, a home race for them in Berlin, but the team are based here in the UK. 3rd place for Alex Lynn. Only his 2nd Formula E podium finish. But he ends up on 3rd spot. 2nd podium of the season. And Nick De Vries for Mercedes EQ has his 3rd podium finish of the season. High fives with Alejandro Agag. And and a big old hug with Cara Delevingne. Fist bumps all around. And the top step of the podium, the man from Nuneaton, Jake Dennis for BMW, wins his home E-Prix. Stands on the top step. And what a moment this is, as he stands in the Excel Centre on the top step of the podium and listens to the British national anthem. And now the anthem for BMW I, Andretti.
From the United States of America.
The American national anthem for the BMW I Andretti Motorsport team. They run under an American license, thanks to Andretti.
I'd like to congratulate you.
And now
Diver, Managing Director
the trophies will be awarded.
Ireland, celebrating with Will Davison,
And Rob
team
Diver,
representative of BMW
the managing director of Tagore UK and Ireland, hands out the trophy to Will Davison, the performance engineer of BMW I Andretti, as they take another win in the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship. That is their 7th win in the series. David Richards, chairman of Motorsport UK, a rather legendary team owner as well. Ran Pro Drive, the rally cars of the 90s and 2000s, in particular when they were so successful. Dilbag Gill, the team principal, applauding. Mr. Solomzi Milana, the first secretary to the South Africa High Commission of London, hands the trophy out to Nick de Vries for his 2nd place finish. Formula E heading to Cape Town next year.
And Cara Delevingne, actress and model, to congratulate our winner, Jake Dennis from BMW.
And the trophy presented by Cara Delevingne to Jake Dennis, who is absolutely over the moon.
Drivers, it's time for the famous Formula E podium selfie that will be shared across all our social media.
This is quite the podium selfie as well. And Jake Dennis will savour this selfie, I think, for quite a while. It's the selfie of the win that will move him into title contention. He goes up to 2nd in the standings, and we've got to do it all again tomorrow afternoon in London. Superb performance from Dennis, but now this is what he wants. They want to celebrate. De Vries has got the technique down with the champagne celebrations, but Dennis had the technique down today with winning Round 12 of the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship here in London. And we go green in London. Jake Dennis wins in London.
That is how you win a Formula E race, boys.